Okay, we're gonna take a nap today. No nap. Welcome. The workshop that we're gonna have today. I'm not a magician that has all the solutions how to reach completely Generation Z. We are in an ongoing discovery. What are the problems with each generation, and how can we improve what we do with them? So I'm going to try to explain you why we have this generation, where is the origin of these problems, and then that will help us to understand a little better how to work with them. And we will give some hints on how we can interact with this new generation. But before we do that, I would like to have a word of prayer. And I would like to know if there's somebody here that can, French. Okay. Can we have a prayer in French? Is that okay? Yes? Okay.
Seigneur mon Dieu, je veux te remercier de ce temps passé ensemble, que tu nous permettes vraiment de passer un temps où nous pouvons réfléchir sur cette génération Z. C'est vrai que c'est compliqué de tout comprendre, mais nous voulons vraiment nous laisser inspirer par toi, que tu puisses être dans le cœur de chacun et de chacune, et que nous puissions cheminer, réfléchir et pouvoir toucher leur cœur, et que toi, Seigneur, tu puisses venir dans leur cœur et cheminer avec eux. C'est ce que je te demande au nom de Jésus.
Amen. Amen. Merci beaucoup. Okay. I hope that the projector will work, because it's kind of giving me hints that it's a little tired. But anyway. So Generation Z. Before we go even to talk a little bit about the Generation Z, we need to understand that we are all being affected by culture. Culture is inevitable. We live in each one of the countries we live, we have different cultures. And I saw this quotation that I think is very appropriate. It says, I am the art in your art houses, the ideas in your institutions, the laws in your land, the message in your movies, the thoughts of your teachers, the values your kids value. I affect you. And the question is, do you affect me? I am culture. So we live in a world that, even if we like it or not, somehow we are affected by the culture. That doesn't mean that everything that affects us is negative. No. The only thing I'm saying that culture affects us. Sometimes in a bad way, sometimes in a good way. But we need to understand that in each different country, culture will affect in different ways. So Generation Z, even though they have a scope of things that are similar everywhere, in different cultures there will be differences. And we need to understand that. So we need to start with the understanding that there is culture. Culture is just to try to define a little bit, okay? Culture is the comprehensive, penetrating context that encompasses life and thought, art and speech, entertainment and sensibility, values and faith. Everything is in the same basket. Culture affects everything, even faith. It cannot be reduced to that which is simply economy, political, demographic, or technological. We can think that if we go and I've been in most of the countries that are the part of the third world countries. I've been in most of them, and sometimes we think they have no technology. This is not true. I've been in countries in Africa where the wages, what they earn every month is not a lot of money, but almost everybody, every young person has a smartphone. Almost all of them. You can see because they are taking pictures all the time when you're preaching or you're talking, and they have smartphones. So technology, even though it's affected by the culture and the economic possibility, it's everywhere. Going further, the essence of culture in regard to its most profound challenge is that it is a spirit, a perspective on the world. It doesn't simply give a context for our values, it shapes our values. And most of the values that we as Christians we should get those values not from the culture, but from the Bible. When we talk about Christians, and I have a quotation that is very interesting after this slide. We should get our values from the Bible, but most of the time we get our values from the culture we live in. It doesn't just provide the atmosphere for something such as communication. It forms what communication is and how it is achieved. Most of the applications that we have and we use, and they affect us also. Our communications have been developed, most of them in a first world country, United States, some of them also in Europe. But you have Twitter, you have, Facebook, you have Instagram. Those are tools. They have decided how they can reach and connect with everybody technologically. They decide culture, develop in a country or in 2 countries or in 50 countries, it doesn't matter, communication decides how we do it. Culture alters not only what is said, but also what is heard and how. So this is just a little introduction. So we need to have in mind not only talking about one generation, but that generation somehow has been created by the culture surrounding them. Now, this is the quotation that is extremely good, to be truly countercultural, because we have culture. Culture affects us, but there is a way to be countercultural. And Gandhi defined it. To be truly countercultural begins with being truly Christ-like. We cannot convey anything related to the truth of Christ apart from reflecting Christ himself. In fact, we were saying this morning, the only way you can show you're Christian is the people, when they look at you, they see Christ. They don't see just, look at that stupid guy that is always talking badly about me. They see somebody that is different. Gandhi once said, I like your Christ, because Gandhi he knew about Christianity. He read the Bible. He knew about the Bible. And he said, I've been reading about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was awesome. He was amazing. I mean, the things he did, the things he said, I like Christ. But guys, I do not like your Christians. And that hurts. I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Please don't take a picture of this slide, because this picture cannot be in internet. This is the only one. The rest of the slides, they are okay. But we don't have permission to put this on internet, okay? This is the only one. The simple truth is that the early Christians were very much like Jesus, so much so that they named them Christians because they look like little Christ, They look so alike. They are so alike, the master, the teacher. We need to call them Christians because they look like Christ. I like your Christ, I don't like your Christians. So let's go to understand a little bit Generation Z. In Ecclesiastes 1:4, it says, one generation passes away and another generation comes. And that's the reality. We have to deal with generations. So before we even go to Generation Z, that is is probably the most complicated generation. If we look at the scope of all the generations, we have kind of history on them. One generation comes and another goes away. This is, you want to take a picture of this one? This is an extremely important graphic for us to be able to understand Generation Z. We're not going to talk in this slide about Generation Z, but you need to know how the previous generations were, so we can understand why we are in the moment we find ourselves. So the first generation, we have kind of a recorded history, is the baby boomers, the boomers, okay? These are the people that were born more or less, okay? The dates are not rigid. There's always a transition. It's not rigid. I found different options. I put these ones, okay? But the baby boomers, 1945 to 1964. I'm very close to this one, okay? I'm here, but very close to this one. How many of you are baby? There's any baby boomer here? Baby boomer, baby boomer, baby boomer. Good, that's good. That's very good. That's very good. Baby boomers were affected by history in a way that other generations were not. Baby boomers, one of the things that affected a lot this generation was after World War II. After World War II, everything was destroyed. You remember Europe, how Europe was? I mean, we're in Germany. You know how Germany was? And not only Germany, you went to Italy, France, Spain. We were safe, not too much. We were a little safe because we had a dictator and he knew how to manage, to keep the forces out of the country. But most of the countries in Europe, they were destroyed. After World War II, everybody has, this attitude of let's rebuild. Let's start working on rebuild the country. So we have a prosperity that is incredibly big, and it goes up very fast after World War II. There's a prosperity and a rise of the consumer economy. Before, during World War II, you ate 1 egg a week, a loaf of bread every day, and a little bit of milk if you were fortunate. I'm talking about Spain. We're under the dictator. I remember when I was 6, 7 years old, once a week, we were able to eat chicken wings. And that was, oh my God, we were waiting for that day. When is, I'm not saying that we need to eat chicken wings, okay? I'm talking about what happened at that moment. We were so short on food, chicken wings, once a week, chicken wings. The wings only, that almost everything is bone. And that was like, the delicacy. There was not much food. But then we start to have a lot of food. And the consumer economy arrives. And we start from eating less than what we needed to eat much more than what we need. And start with the baby boomers. But not only the consumer economy, there's also the sexual revolution. You remember this German van that is linked, even today, still linked to the hippies. You remember the hippies? What is the name of this? You see that van? I mean, I see that van, and the first picture that comes to my mind, the hippies. And they drove in those vans, and they did more things in those vans, not just driving, okay? Sexual revolution. What was the name of this concert in the United States? Woodstock. They were in that place by the thousands, listening to music and doing what? Yes. Smoking marijuana, the cannabis, and having sex with whoever. It was not important you had a girlfriend or not. I mean, you went there, that was it, Baby boom. The baby boomers. Sexual revolution. And let me tell you, before I finish with baby boomers are the parents of the millennials. There is a connection between these. Okay. Maybe I have to stay there. So there is a connection between baby boomers and millennials, or Generation Y, okay? Baby boomers are the parents of Generation Y. And Generation X, how many of you are Generation X? Look at the dates. Let's see the hands. I'm X. I mean, no, okay. Generation X. Some of you, okay. We guys, Generation X, We are the parents of Generation Z. So what we have today as the Generation Z, most of the responsibility is on our shoulders. I know I'm putting myself in the same basket, okay? We are the parents of this complicated generation. But let me tell you one thing. How many of you are millennials? I want to see the hands. Let me tell you one thing. If you think this generation is complicated, wait until you have kids. Because every single generation is more complicated than the previous one. In the society we're living in, Generation X produced Generation Z. But you guys, Generation Y or millennials, you will produce this one. You will produce another generation, and Lord have mercy.
There's no other letter in the alphabet.
Because Jesus is coming. I hope. I really hope for that. So the baby boomers, sexual revolution, the Vietnam War, and the civil rights movement. All these things are big in history, and those things affected the baby boomers, their way of thinking, and that way of thinking shaped them and helped them or made them educate millennials. So most of the things that we find in the millennials is because of how baby boomers raised them. So this is baby boomers, okay? Now let's go to Generation X. Generation X comes from this generation here. Some individuals, they call those generations, because there's no kind of history records on that, elder or olders. Elders or olders, the generations before baby boomers. My parents are here. Well, they're not there. They live in Spain. But they're part of that generation. Those are the ones that raise me, Generation X. Okay? You always need to remember generations, they are linked. They are linked together. So Generation X was formed in part by the Challenger disaster. You know, it's all this landing in the moon, all these technology things that everybody was amazed. Oh, what are we doing? I mean, we're breaking history here, you know? Generation X, the end of the Cold War. I was watching TV when they, you know, you remember the people going with the hammers, with these big hammers, destroying the wall in Germany. The Berlin Wall. You remember that? That, for me, that was a wow. For me, and I was a small kid. I was very young. And let me tell you one thing. This is a parenthesis, okay? If you look at the geography of Europe, there's only one country in Europe that understood that they will grow and they will be stronger together than dividing themselves. I'm not going to talk about what's happening in Spain. Spain is not in a good shape right now when it comes to politics. Spain wants to be divided, you know, to broke, you know, the territory, we want to belong to a smaller group. We want to control ourselves. I don't want anybody else. You know, we pass from the imperialism, that there's one only country, you know, ruling everything, and now we want to be individualistic. You know, we want to be alone. Spain is being broken. The only country that understood is Germany. Germany was divided. Now, they're together. They unite. I'm not saying they have no differences, but they are together. Look at what happened, you know, with Czechoslovakia. I still remember Czechoslovakia. Now it's the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and you go to Montenegro. I remember when I finished, you know, my 8th grade, I always loved geography. I need to study geography again, because the shape of Europe has changed so much in the last years. The only country that understood, it's better we are together is Germany, okay? So the Cold War shaped my generation, Generation X. And this is extremely important. We need to look at this. Sexual revolution. No fault divorce. That means I can divorce whenever I want. I don't have an excuse. I don't need an excuse. I will divorce. In fact, this generation is the generation that start thinking on, I'm gonna get married, but I won't be married with that person for too long. I mean, if I don't get along too much, the first option, divorce. Everything starts in this generation, our generation, some of you guys, Generation X. Divorce is part of our mindset already. And it comes from what happened before sexual revolution. You can do whatever you want. Sexuality is free. Do whatever you want. Now, I married my wife for eternity. I did not marry my wife to spend 2-3 years, have sex with her, maybe or one kid or two, and then I will look for a different wife or woman. Are you kidding me? But this impacted not only the lives of the people, but the lives of the Christians. I don't know if I'm explaining myself. Culture affected our way of thinking even as Christians. No fault divorce and the personal computer. And guys, this is the for me, this is the biggest revolution. I cannot live without it. Have you ever found yourself, I don't know if I want to record this. Have you ever found yourself sitting in the toilet with an iPad? No? I remember when the first time I went to the United States, I went to the restroom, to the toilet, and I saw they had a book, a big book. It was big like this, and the title of the book was the toilet book. What are these Americans doing? The toilet book. But no, we're doing the same thing. We go with the iPad, or we texting somebody, with our cell phone while we are sitting in the throne. Personal computer has changed the way we see life. And it started, did you have this first IBM, computer that, I remember the first computer my parents bought for me, they spent, it was like 4 months' wages. They saw that I understood this. I saw a program at that time. You give me now the Adobe, some of them I can use them very well, but the Adobe Premiere, those are a little bit more complicated. But at that time, they were not that complicated. But I saw a program, I knew how to use it. They said, we need to buy this kid a computer. 4 months' wages they spent for one computer. It was for me, those floppies. 5 1/4, how do you use those ones?
Floppy disk.
The floppy disk. Then the 3.5, a smaller one, and now those. My daughters, the first time they saw the 3.5, I still have some at home. They saw those. What is that? So what is that? I used it when I was 24. It's not that far in time, What is that? I've never seen this before, Personal computer has changed the mindset of many people, and one of them mine. I recognize that. I cannot live without my computer. I have a Mac. But anyway, a computer is Generation X. This is what affected Generation X. And this generation produced Generation Z. Techie guys. We became techie guys. And the kids that we produced, they had no brain. They had a chip. Some of them with 8 gigabytes, some of them 128 gigabytes, but a chip, okay? And then we go to the next generation, the millennials. Most of you are millennials. Guys, I'm sharing this with you. Be careful. Really think twice how you raise your kids. Because the generations that are coming after the Generation Z, they're not going to be better. if we don't take care of business. They were born with almost the 9/11. Do you remember the 9/11 attacks? I was a pastor at that time. I was pastoring in Valencia, and I went to visit my brother, and I was working in a project in Sagunto, El Cas. I was putting together a presentation, and all of a sudden, they called me, come, look at what's happening. So I ran to the living room, and I saw a plane hitting a building. That was the first thing I saw on the TV, but I was already 30-something, 35, but the little kids. 9/11 attacks and the subsequent war on terror loom large for millennials. Millennials, they don't know, or most of them, they don't remember a safe planet. The first time I got on a plane, I was like 23, 24. My dream when I was a young kid, I would like to go once on a plane in my life. That was like now I'm sick of planes. I'm tired of planes. I don't want to see the planes anymore. They don't remember a safe world. I remember, on those times, long time ago, you didn't need to go through security when you went to get a plane. You just walk all the way, with your luggage, and then you will reach the entrance of the gate to get into the plane. There was no security. Tell that to the millennials and the Generation Z. There's always been security. We don't live in a safe world. We don't live in a safe world anymore. I was born in a safe world. Kind of. There was wars. But you were not scared of going on a plane or getting a train. By the way, after 9/11, I was supposed to... Did you hear about the train explosion in Madrid? After 9/11, I think it was the following year, because Spain helped, together with the Italians and the people from England, they helped the Americans. So they retaliate. I was supposed to be in that train, the train that exploded and many people died. God knows why I was not in that train, but I was supposed to be in that train. But this is probably a story for another time. Millennials, they never lived in a completely safe world. That impacted their lives, but not as large as internet. You look at the evolution, okay? Sexual revolution, no-fault divorce, internet, free access to everything. Mainly sex. You Google what are the pages more visited on internet. You can do it if you... No, don't do it. Porn. There's a study on that. Porn, XXX, and that's not a movie, is pornography. I mean, free porn and free sex and all those are the 4 or 5 first, and the numbers are extremely big and they grow exponentially every year. They grow. Sexuality, no-fault divorce, internet opened the window, the door, and everything in the house to affect these generations. Video gaming. I was telling you, I had that IBM, and I remember, an entire game in a 5 1/4 floppy disk. And you put that, in the computer, and the game started. You were amazed. Wow, what a game. If my daughter saw this game today, they would say, you were playing to that. This is, how could you play that? That's rubbish.
Just do a rage rule, then you love it.
I did. I play those games. I play those games. I was not that old in this generation, Video gaming, but today you have young people. I know. You have young people that they can spend 24 hours and even more without sleeping playing video games. Tell this to the people here. Tell that to the people, the baby boomers. They don't understand it. Baby boomers work. You go to Generation Y, they produce them, but they don't understand them. video gaming and mobile technology. Do you remember how was your first cell phone? I can tell you, you know. Have you seen those ways of communicating that the army had, you know, those big cell phones like this, you know? I remember my first cell phone was like 6, 7 times this or 8 times. You have to open the, and you have to put out, you know, the antenna. They said, no, you have to use it. I said, why the antenna? It's not the same. No, you have to put, you know, click. It was so heavy. I remember the first cell phone right now. I mean, you have so much things inside of this little thing. But that started here. 80, 81, 85, you know, we started with the mobile technology, globalization. When I was young, my dream was, you know, I was living in Madrid, so I would like to go to France. For me, France was like, oh, France. Portugal was a little closer for me, but France, I mean, I would like to one day to go to France and see, you know, it's another country. Today, you ask the young people, what are you going to do this weekend? I'm going to London. What? I'm going to spend the weekend in London. Like something normal. Where are you going? I'm going to Marrakesh. I'm going to Morocco. What? For us, the distance was from this place to that house. That was, oh my. Right now, distances, globalization, and diversity has changed the way we see things and the way this generation see things. And remember, they have been affected by the consumer mindset of their boomer parents. Remember, consumer economy. These guys, they will buy things even if they don't need them. That's why we have Black Friday. And when I left Europe and I went to the United States to work over there, they said, are you gonna go to, I like technology, you know, are you gonna go to like a media market, you know, Best Buy, on Black Friday? I thought Black Friday was a musical group, you know. But it went Black Friday. I'm talking like 14 years ago, you know. Black Friday, what is Black Friday? No, you can buy whatever you want. It's so cheap. But what if you don't need it? No, but it's so cheap. What if I don't need it? But it's like a 70% discount. I mean, you. But now we have Black Friday here. I came back thinking, you know, I'm going to get rid of those. We have Black Friday in Europe, and it's not only one day. Sometimes it's a weekend already. It's not just one day. It becomes longer, the Black Friday, okay? Now it's going to be the Black Week and the Black Month. The consumer mindset, you will buy, you will spend money even in things you will never use. And then we go to the Generation Z. But you needed to know this. Baby boomers produced this generation. Generation X produced Generation Z. And now we go to Generation Z. And this is, I put these 6 characteristics. These are the most essential ones. There are more, but these are probably the most complicated ones. They are screenagers. They are screenagers. They are not teenagers. They live on a screen. You know, my daughters, they are Generation Z. And we have rules in the house. We are not rigid, but in every house there's rules. So we told them, you know, there's at least when we eat, no cell phones. So I remember, you know, eating. We need to communicate. We need to talk. It's a moment to talk. This is lunchtime, dinner time. We don't play. We need to communicate. Yeah. They understand. Yes. Okay. So sometimes you see one of them eating like this. I'm not stupid, you know, eating and looking like this, you know. And you see that with the fingers they're doing. Okay, what are you doing? Huh? What? Can you leave the cell phone? We were eating. Okay. They cannot stop. They are screenagers. For many of them, it's even difficult to communicate one-to-one. They're not used to it. They isolate themselves. They're with their technology devices, like cell phones or iPads, or and when we talk about screenager, we're not talking about TV. You know that TVs, very soon they will disappear. They don't watch probably they will have TV, but just to watch a movie on Netflix. Netflix is what's going on today. I mean, the news. Tell my daughters and other teenagers to watch the news. The news? What are you talking about? The news? Do you know something about socioeconomy? What? Do you know something about politics? I don't care about politics. They are chatting with their friends and they're looking to stuff that you don't know what they look at that stuff, but they're looking at that. They're screenagers. Generation Z has come of age in a world saturated. Saturated. We have much more than what we need. Saturated by digital technology. And they live on it. Why I'm telling you this? Because we cannot communicate the message to them in the same way anymore. This is something we need to remember. We cannot use the same ways as we used before if we want to reach this generation. They are not baby boomers. They are not Generation X. They're Generation Z. And if we don't know them, we won't be able to reach them. Number 2, their worldview is post-Christian. I have a couple of slides, or three slides after this one, that are impacting. Many in Generation Z, more than in generations before them, are spiritual blank slate. God, no. Do you have a favorite Bible verse? What? Favorite Bible verse? I don't read the Bible. I have a video clip I want to show you. What time are we supposed to finish? Spiritual blank. We'll see one slide regarding this. Safe spaces are normal. Generation Z collective aversion to causing offense is the natural product of a pluralistic, inclusive culture that frowns on passing judgment. They don't want to judge anybody. You tell something to a Generation Z young person, you try to confront them, they won't fight back. Most of them, they won't fight back. But they won't listen to you. The fact that they don't want to cause offense doesn't mean that they will agree with what you said. They will tell you probably, yeah. And I know that in German, yeah, has different meanings. So they will probably say, yeah. I don't care. They won't confront you, but they won't listen to you. Because they don't like confrontation. They don't like fighting. They don't like that. Mainly because they are not used to relationships. And if they think they're going to fight with you, that's going to be the end of the relationship. It's over. I won't talk to you anymore in my life. Because they are not used to relationships, one-on-one. How many times I fought with my friends? I mean, not every day, but you have some differences, arguments. No, I don't think like you. Politics, football, Real Madrid, Barcelona. I have good friends from Barcelona. I'm Real Madrid. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. I mean, just somebody like more Barcelona. Okay. I don't fight because of that. No, I think it's stupid to fight for those things. But you have discussions. You have arguments. But you're a friend of that guy. You will die for him. Generation Z. They don't fight one another, but they won't listen to you. Number 4, real safety. I was telling this before. Real safety is a myth. Safety word? What are you talking about? No, I cannot believe that. You have to be 3 hours prior to departure at the airport because they're going to get you naked and look in every single pocket that you have just in case you have, I don't know, a match. real safety is a myth. After 9/11, they do not recall ever having lived in a country that is at peace, always waiting for something to happen. You go to Colombia. I remember I was about to travel to Colombia first. It was one of my first trips in 2006. And some people at the General Conference said, "Are you going to Colombia?" You know, they like to scare you. This is funny people, you know. "You're going to Colombia?" I said, "Yes." "Oh boy, they're going to kidnap you." "What?" Yeah. It's a very, very difficult country. "Yeah. Are you sure you want to go?" "You should cancel the trip." "I'm a pastor. I have to go." I landed the day after the bomb exploded in Domodossola in Russia. At the airport. You remember that explosion that killed many people that was leaving the airport? One day later, same flight, I was landing I saw all the destruction. They don't recall ever having lived in a country at peace. Number 5, they are diverse. Complete acceptance, and this is it complicates depending on what you're talking about. Complete acceptance and even elevation of non-male and non-white is a generational marker. That's why Generation Z, and I don't want to get into difficult topics here, but Generation Z, most of them, they don't understand this thing with the women's ordination, and I'm going to leave it there. Why they don't understand? They don't understand because how can you tell me that a man and a woman are different? We cannot understand that. That's the way they think. Black and white? Are you kidding me? Who cares the color of a skin? Who cares if you're from France or you're from Spain? And I know that in the past France and Spain had differences, but who cares? There's no differences. We live in a globalization world. That's their mindset. Well, the problem is that we have baby boomers and Generation Z living together in the same church. So in the same church, you have people that are still racist, and I've seen that. I can tell you. And I want to remind you one thing. Racism is not only against black people. There is racism against black people. But there's racism against people that is not black. I felt racism. I did. I've seen racism against Hispanics. Is there any Hispanic here? No? Well, I've seen it. Against Asians. Everywhere you go, there's racism. But this new generation, Generation Z, they don't understand about those things. 11, 12, they like, playing games. Are you talking? What are you? My best friend is black. What are you talking about? Racism. Are you stupid? They don't understand. They don't understand those things. They are diverse. And this is a very complicated thing. Their parents are double-minded. And I am probably one of those parents, okay? What it means double-minded? I was teaching a week of prayer in a school. Just to little kids, 10, 11, 12 years old. They were not even teenagers yet. And, one of the days I said, I want to do something different with them. Instead of getting a Bible verse and sharing some thoughts and some activities, I said, today we're gonna do a different thing. So I wrote on the chalkboard, good and bad. And I made a line. And I asked them, what do you think is good? In your life, what you live in society, what do you think is good? So one of the kids, raised their hand and said, cannabis. What? In Spain, it was in Spain, they say, marijuana. How, what are you, marijuana? I said, why are you saying marijuana? Yes, my father. My father told me that it's good because it helps with the stress. Okay, let's leave it there, okay? Marijuana is good. So, okay, so they said some of the things that I agree with them. They were good. And what is bad? And the police. police is bad? Yeah, because my father. The police stops him when he's going fast and he has to pay a ticket. The police is bad because they stop you. Are you kidding me? The police is not bad because of that. I know sometimes they treat the speed limit, okay? But the one that is breaking the law is your father. If you are supposed to go to 60 and you're going 200, the police is bad. But the reality is that we are facing a generation that they don't understand good and bad. Or at least their values have been twisted. We had a way of deciding what is good and what is bad. And it came always from where? From the Bible. Right now there's no Bible. For many of them, there's no Bible. Where did they get the what is good and what is bad? Where did they get it from? Movies. The parents. What they see on TV. If we don't get involved in education, somebody else will. And they are. So they get twisted because we don't teach them. And we will see this a little later. Their parents are double-minded. What it means, Generation Z's parents may be over-involved in many of the wrong ways. So they try to overprotect the kids. I had a friend. We were very good friends. We grew up as young people. And he got married. He got a kid. And he asked me to do the dedication. I think in English the word is dedication. To dedicate the kid. But when he asked, the kid was 2 years old. Dedication is in the first months, maybe the third, 2 months, 3 months. I said, man, why are you waiting that long? No. I'm not going to take my kid out of the house. Imagine if he gets a virus. He only left the house with the kid to go to the doctor. No, the kid, overprotection. Overprotection. They get involved in things that are not that important. I'm not saying we don't need to protect our kids, but come on. But in other things they are too detached in others. Many of the parents, Generation X, our generation, they decided, I've been bombarded by religion. I've been told every single day what I have to do. I'm not going to do that with my kids. So I'm going to give them the freedom to choose or not choose. They will learn at home, at class, in the classroom, at school, maybe the church. Parents release responsibilities into other institutions because of the way they were treated. It's not just only the blame on us, okay? We are the way we are because of how other generations raised us. Their parents are double-minded. They are overprotecting in wrong ways, too detached in good ways. They don't do that. So this is what we have in the generation today. Look at this. This is a comparison made by Barna. What is morally right and wrong? I was telling you, about right and wrong. Changes over time based on society. Who decides what's right and what's wrong? Society. You look at the boomers, it was only 20%. No, it's not society. At that time, most of the individuals, they thought, it comes from the Bible. We have a book that is telling us about values and morality. Now, it raised to double, 24%. No, it can change, no problem at all. Society will decide. The society will decide on homosexuality. Society will decide about sexuality. Society will decide on even lying or not lying. Ethical issues. What is morally right or wrong depends on what an individual believes. It's more or less the same. But this, it's completely unbalanced and it's growing. It will keep on growing. If the Bible does not find its way to reach these generations, this will keep on growing. Another one. Look at this. Lying is morally wrong. 61% said, yeah, it's wrong. The elders. That's the generation that raised us. the Generation X, okay? These are the ones. But you go to the boomers and it went a little, low. But look at the Generation Z. This is something very dangerous. Most of the Generation Z thinks that lying is okay. They will lie to the parents, they will lie to the teachers, they will lie to the pastor, and they won't have, this feeling of guilt. Because it's okay. Lying is good. Even though we have one of the commandments that is talking about this. It's okay. Is morally wrong? No, it's morally okay. We can lie. Abortion is wrong. It's going down. It's going down. Marriage should be a lifelong commitment between a man and a woman. Look, 66% of the elders said, yes, it's a lifelong. I want to be with that woman forever. Look, we almost went to half. Sex before marriage. This is very interesting because it's like we always need to justify, okay? Every single generation needed to justify. Sex before marriage is morally wrong. No, we can have it, okay? I'm not saying that's what my opinion is. What is in the study, okay? Homosexual behavior is morally wrong, and it will keep on going down. Because who is decided for us what is good and what is bad? It's not the Bible anymore. Most of the times are movies, TV shows. There's a TV show, Little Liars. Have you heard about that TV show? There's a TV show with the name Little Liars. I think that's the right title. It's a TV show that, all the people in there is lying one to another, and that's what the kids are looking at, So at the end of the day, after 2-3 seasons, lying is okay. It's no problem. About homosexuality, look at any movie. Most of the TV shows that have been produced in Spain in the late, maybe 5 to 10 years, there's always somebody that is homosexual, and it's okay, or a lesbian, and it's okay. I'm not sharing my opinion on this. I'm saying what's happening culturally, socially, and it's okay. Our kids, they look at that and they understand it is okay. Generation Z, only 4% of Generation Z have a biblical worldview. 4%. So 96% have more or less no clue about what the Bible says, what it is the Bible. 96%. This is scary. And it has been going down, and it keeps on going down. From boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Generation Z. It's going, every time it's going more down and down. After 0, there's no more numbers, so. But it declines. Every generation declines a little bit more, and declines a little bit more. Given the prevalence of social media and screens in our society, we are seeing an acceleration of ideas, beliefs, and practices that are out of step with what God has revealed in the Bible. Atheism is on the rise in Generation Z. Every time we're losing more kids and more kids because they don't see value in the Bible. They don't even see value in religion. Religion is even worse than the Bible. Because it's not the same thing, okay? Religion is even worse than the Bible. Today, teens are less Christian and more confused about moral and spiritual truth than ever. This is the generation we have in front of us. This is it. Now, I have 3 questions for you. We don't have a lot of time. I will ask you to take a picture of this. Keep those questions. We can divide right now, and we can take 10 minutes, and you can choose one of the questions and talk among groups of 2-3 people. You can put yourself together, with the language. Do you think the church, acting as the church, is a barrier or a blessing to Generation Z? Your church. I'm not talking about the church, but your church. The church you're coming from, do you think is a barrier or is a blessing to this generation? Generation Z. Why do you feel this way? Every generation must translate the gospel into its unique setting without transforming the message itself. If a Generation Z were to sit in your service this next Sabbath, will the experience make any sense to them? Don't think right now about the boomers. We are not losing the boomers. We are not losing the baby boomers. They won't move. The church belongs to them. But we're losing the Generation Z and the millennials. More the Generation Z. Now, do you think the service, the experience that they will have, will make any sense to them? If not, how can you work to translate elements of the service so that the service connects with them without compromising the truth it contains? Okay? And the third one is the relevance of the church is not found in its capitulation to culture, but in its transformation of culture. Do you agree with this? If you agree, what about your church should change? I know the word change sometimes is a little scary, but when it's necessary, we need to use it. What in your local church you think should change? What if we give 10 minutes? 10 minutes, okay? Because I have another section that I would like to explain to you. 10 minutes? Yes? Okay. You can move now. You can move. Group yourself with 2, 3, 4 people, and talk. You can choose one of the questions, and then we will come back because I have some other slides that are extremely important I would like to share with you. Okay? Guys, in 5 minutes, I have to finish. And I would like to show you something that for me is crucial. I mean, you can do not stop this conversation. I mean, stop it right now, but I mean, try to have this conversation in your churches. You need to really think if what your church is offering to this generation is good. And I'm not talking about theology, okay? I'm not talking about changing the Sabbath. No, the Sabbath is the Sabbath, period. There's no discussion about it. But let me show you a couple of things. This is a quotation that for me is extremely important. While it can be tempting in our culture to only pay attention to negative trends, there are positive trends as well. Not everything is negative. There are good things. Today, I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but today I can tell you my daughters, they are Generation Z and they love the Lord. Today. I hope that, they will keep attached to Him until He comes back, to take us home. But there are ways you can reach this generation. There are ways, even if it's difficult. What we choose to focus on makes all the difference. Because Jesus is risen and Christianity is true, we have a living hope regardless of the cultural circumstances we find ourselves in. Whether we are in the majority or being marginalized, our charge as followers of Jesus is to be faithful to pass on our faith to the next generation. But we need to find the way. And let me show you this, that is a biblical paradigm. In the same book of the Bible, the book of Acts, you have Peter. The first one you see is Peter, Acts 2. Peter is talking to the Jews. And he's talking to the Jews, we're going to see, with another chapter in the book of Acts. To the Jews, he says, you know about creation. You know about Moses. You know about the prophets. You know everything. So I'm not going to talk to you about Abraham. I'm not going to talk to you about Moses. You already know. I'm not going to talk about that. There's one thing you need to know. This is Peter, okay? In Acts number 2. There's one thing. That Jesus was the Messiah. You rejected Him and killed Him, and He rose again and unleashed His church, which means you need to repent. That was the message of Peter. And you know how many people got baptized? You remember? Acts 2? 3,000. I mean, I'm not saying we need to baptize. If we deliver this message in our church, we will baptize 3,000. What I'm saying, he found the best way to communicate the truth. For these people, this was the best way. Now, we go a little farther in the book of Acts. We're not talking too much far away in time. And we go to Acts 17. And this is a biblical paradigm that you can find in the same book. Now you find Paul. In Acts 2, you have Peter. Peter was talking to Jews, but Paul is not talking to Jews. You remember what happens, It's on a spiritual marketplace. All these guys, they believe in many gods. And how I'm going to deliver, and even the way he arrives to that place is amazing. But the truth was relative for those guys. The truth, they question everybody and everything. Worldviews and God litter the landscape, and the average person wouldn't know the difference between Isaac and an iPad. You go to them and you say, Isaac was about, one of the fathers. What, Isaac? Is this thing you move with a finger? They didn't know about Isaac. How are you going to go and talk about that to them? They won't listen to you. So you remember, he needed to find a way to connect with those guys. Paul surveyed, he was very smart. He saw what was in that marketplace. And he saw one, you remember there was a lot of statues with the name of the gods, but there was one statue, the unnamed. There was one statue that had the unnamed God. So Paul, the Holy Spirit was with Paul all the time. I'm positive. He said, this is my opportunity. I'm not going to talk about Abraham or Isaac or Moses. This is not the way I will reach them. And he said, what if I could tell you that God's name? You have the unnamed God. I know the name. What? Those guys that question everything, that, knowledge was everything for them, and somebody comes and says, the thing you don't know, I know. Bam! Antennas. It's a biblical paradigm. Different culture, different approach. We are not changing the end message, but we are changing how we deliver it. And if we don't learn how to do that, we're going to keep on losing Generation Z. And the Generation Y, the millennials, we will keep on losing them. If we are not able to have a different approach to those big truths. This is a biblical paradigm, and this is something that I found very interesting. And let me show you. This is a video clip.
Battery 100%.
This is not the video
Connected
clip.
to
It's information. Okay?
Max
This is
with
information.
Pro and Johnny your phone.
Okay, it's just 1 minute. Can we turn off this? Yeah, that's okay. Oh boy, we're gonna sleep. It's okay. You know what movie is this one? Gravity, okay?
I'm die on it, God. I know, we're all gonna die. Everybody knows that. But I'm gonna die today. Funny that, to know. But the thing is that I'm still scared. I'm really scared. Nobody will mourn for me. No one will pray for my soul. Will you mourn for me? Will you say a prayer for me? Or is it too late? I'd say one for myself, but I've never prayed in my life, so nobody ever taught me how. Nobody ever taught me how.
This is what she says. Just in case you did not understand everything. Oh, I'm going to die. I know. We're all going to die. Everybody knows that, but I'm going to die today. It's funny that to know that you're going to die today. But the thing is that I'm still scared. I'm really scared. No one will mourn for me. No one will pray for my soul. Will you mourn for me? Will you say a prayer for me, or it is too late? I mean, I said one for myself, but I never prayed in my life. And this is the worst. But nobody ever taught me how. Nobody ever taught me how. And this is a little piece of one movie, but the truth is, we can turn on the lights because I'm going to finish with this. So wake up, guys. We really have a responsibility. Sometimes we have decided to give our kids to society so society will raise them. And I'm very sorry, but that is wrong. We have a responsibility. In this little fragment, 1 minute, nobody ever taught me how. You go to the Bible, you remember the disciples, they asked Jesus, teach us how to pray. And we're talking about individuals that live in the spiritual people of God. And when they met Jesus, they said, you know what? And it's at the beginning of the ministry. We don't know how to pray. We think our people knows how to, this is just one example, but prayer is very important. And I remember trying to teach my daughters, it's something personal with you and God. You need to find the words. I cannot teach you just one formula. Because it can happen the same thing that happened to an elder when they were going to start, the church board. The pastor asked the elder to pray. So they were in the church board and he said, well, okay, stand up, let's pray. And the elder said, dear Jesus, bless the food we're going to eat now. Sometimes prayer has become just a formula, has no meaning on itself. But we are not teaching our kids to open their hearts to Jesus, to have faith, to believe. Nobody ever taught me so. I really believe, and I'm going to leave you this one. You can take a picture too, because this is something you can use also to talk in groups. You can have discussions and try to grow as a church. I don't have the answers for everything, but I can tell you, we can do better. We can do better in the matter of raising our kids to know about Jesus. To know about Jesus. We can do better. So thank you guys. Thank you for coming, and I really hope that at least you will reflect. I'm still reading a lot about this. I'm still trying to understand even more the implications of how we have raised these generations, and how me personally, even as a father, I can do better with my daughters. I hope that will be the same experience for you. Try to improve, and if we start with ourselves, we will reach the community that is with us, and we can do good things for Generation C and the generations that are coming after that. So thank you guys, thank you very much, and I hope you keep on enjoying the postmat. Thank you. Can we finish with